Well, the nation's Treasury Secretary insists the economy won't fall off an economic cliff after JobKeeper and JobSeeker payments expire in September. And states are at odds over borders. Joining me now, New South Wales Liberal MP Jason Falinski. A lot to unpack here, Jason. I see Gladys Berejiklian and the Premier of Queensland are at each other's throats. Mark McGowan came out with, I think, a disgraceful comment in the last 24 hours where he mentioned, Professor Paul Kelly, who is the preeminent expert on infectious diseases in the country, basically saying he's the guy that's saying borders should be open. What do you make of all this?
Well, look, it's pretty amazing, isn't it, when the very same people who tell us that we have to listen to the experts and the science on climate change are the very same people who are insisting that we should ignore it when it comes to health warnings. But I suppose when you're intent on turning your state into a hermit kingdom, that's pretty much what you get. As for Annastacia Palaszczuk, I mean, internal border controls didn't work in the Soviet Union in the 1970s, but I guess she's determined to make sure that they can work in Queensland in the 21st century. It is just absurd. The whole point of us getting world best health outcomes was so we could achieve world best economic outcomes, not so premiers could continue to keep their people and their states under lock and key.
Well, Jason, here's the thing. In Queensland, and I can obviously speak with some authority on Queensland because I've been covering politics here for 30-odd years, there is palpable anger within the community about the fact that they may have to go through till September. And what happens from July 10? You've got the school holidays and you have the annual snowbirds flying north from down south, and they come up here and they fill the coffers of tourism operators in this state. Tourism operators in this state are going broke. 30,000 jobs lost on the Gold Coast just this month, 7,700 in Cairns, and now you've got a Premier who's flattened the curve, but now she wants to flatten the economy.
So, I mean, where is the care and compassion from the left wing when it comes to all of this? People who just want to go to work, earn an income, look after their families, they're determined to send them out backwards. I mean, Annastacia wants to buy an airline. What's it going to do when it reaches the Queensland border? Turn around and land again? This whole thing is just absurd, and I'm not surprised to hear that Queenslanders are waiting for with a baseball bat. I really am not. To use a phrase that Wayne Goss once used about Paul Keating.
Okay, let's talk about JobKeeper. Let's talk about JobSeeker. We've got Josh Frydenberg, the Treasurer, on the show tomorrow, and obviously I'll be asking him the same question. There's been universal plaudits in relation to the stimulus packages that have been put out there by the Morrison government. As Treasury Secretary, are you happy with the way this has been received? Are you happy with the rollout? Are you happy with the uptake?
Look, I think that, in the middle of any crisis, the key is for you to implement as quickly as possible. Obviously, when you're going to be doing that, there are going to be cases on the edge that don't work out the way you want them to. But the whole point about getting world best outcome on our health side is that we can now use that to leverage world best outcomes on the economic side. I've got a lot of businesses on the northern beaches in Sydney who've told me that while this has been very helpful to them, now that they're reopening, they're finding it tough to get their employees to come back to work because they've got used to sitting at home earning $1,500 a fortnight, and they don't quite understand why they need to come back to work. So unless we are looking, I think, and starting to talk about actively phasing out these schemes, we will be in a situation where a lot of businesses will reopen and find it difficult to get their employees back to work. And that wasn't the point of these schemes. That wasn't the point of what we've been doing in the last couple of months. The point was that we get world best health and economic outcomes. And I think what Steve Kennedy said today, which was the economy's not going to fall off a cliff. There's going to be a lot of jobs around and we need to get people back to work. And that's why I think what Gladys has been talking about today has been so important.
Jason, what do you say to business people, those watching at home tonight, who are doing it tough, who are on that bridge? They're trying to get across that bridge and they're trying to get going again. Obviously, innovation is a key. I think it'll be a completely different reset on the way we do business post-COVID-19. But what would you say to businesses right now to instil some confidence in there going forward?
Well, the first thing I would say is thank you. We know that how tough it's been. We know that there's been support, but we know that a lot of them have had to hold their nerves and that we are now relying on you. This is why it is so important that we reopen our economy as quickly as possible and not continue with internal borders, for example, because what we need to be able to do is let Australians get on with what they do best, and that is having a go. And your government in Canberra will stand behind you and do everything we can do to encourage you to have a go and make sure that when you have a go, you get a go, to use a phrase that I might have heard somewhere else. But that's what we need to do. And look, that means there are going to be some tough decisions over the next couple of weeks and months, and we've got to start talking about them now. And what Steve Kennedy was basically saying today was that these programs are good, but they're not going to last forever. And it's time, and that there will come a time when we need to wind them back. And if we don't, then that will, in the long term, do a lot of damage to our country and our economy.
Jason Falinski, great to see you tonight. Thanks for joining us on Sky News Across Australia.